honor of Patrick Sullivan, this is what we want to know, listeners. What's the best burn spell ever printed?
That's our question for this match.
Yeah, the question for this match. What is the best red burn spell ever printed? Tell us, tweet at us. We'd love to talk about it in honor of Patrick Sullivan. In the meantime, we've got this match starting up between Patrick Sullivan and AJ Sacher. On your screen right now, AJ Sacher is playing the blue-red-white Sparkblade deck, very similar to what Jerry played last week. These players are two friends. I actually stayed with both these players while I was in New York, and they had a great time just playing and fooling around, talking about Magic. And, you know, AJ said yesterday that he was extremely happy that Patrick made top 8. He said, I'm almost more happy that Patrick made top 8 than I made top 8. And then on screen right now is Patrick Sullivan playing mono red, of course, built out of a box of cards like shortly before the tournament started. And this is at the Star City Games Open Series here in Edison. And keep your eyes peeled because during this match we'll be giving away 6 months of free premium. So you're not going to want to miss this.
Patrick Sullivan is a New Jersey native. He's representing with his New Jersey Devils hat. He leads off with a Goblin Guy. That's a pretty nice way to start off a game as a mono-red player.
New Jersey start. So that guide comes down.
I always thought a typical New Jersey start was Chrome Mox, remove a card, Isochron Scepter, and print Orbs Chant. I always thought that was the New Jersey way.
Sure.
Maybe an Astral Slide.
Goblin Guide serves in. The Air Mesa hits the bin, which means I think we'll see a Lightning Bolt here. And I believe AJ only has 3 Lightning Bolts in his deck.
So that's pretty nice that he had one there. Pat's going to thin his deck a little bit. Grab a Beta Mountain.
He keeps it classy with his land choices. That's almost for certain.
Look at his outfit. He's like the Dark Avenger of Magic.
Sure. So AJ was able to stem the tide a little bit there with that Lightning Bolt. And Plated GOP joins the fray. Does AJ have a second Lightning Bolt? I'm not sure. That Day of Judgment will at least take it out eventually.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, though, GOP's already done some work.
And AJ thinking about what play he wants to make here. Alright, so he ends up Squadron Hawk, getting a bunch of blockers for that Plated GOP.
And that's interesting. Like, Pat doesn't really have to move in on his fetch lands at all. And Pat might just run into the Spell Pierce.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that Pierce could be brutal if Pat goes for like Searing Blade or something similar on that Squadron Hawk.
Yeah, I know.
The players cordially having a great time.
Silver. Oh, I'm perfectly aware. Still got a rebel. Yeah, obviously.
All right, so Geopede comes down. So here's from Scalding Tard, Geopede going to serve in, and Goblin Guide joining the fray. Goblin Guide goes after AJ's deck, giving him a Colonnade, and that Squadron Hawk goes in front of that Geopede.
Seems like a reasonable course of actions at this point.
Now AJ could run that Day of Judgment here if he wanted, and wipe off Patrick's board, and that's what he chooses to do.
I mean, that seems like the right play. Now, Koth is going to be a beating here.
Yep, that's the card. When Drew Levin
Pat's probably going to crack this fetch land on the end step, or upkeep. Well,
when Drew Levin was in the booth yesterday, he was telling us about how scared he was of Koth, about how much of a beating that card is in this matchup. You can't ever afford to tap out. You can't ever afford to let it resolve. AJ had the Spell Pierce, and he was like, I have to go for the Day of Judgment here. And here comes Koth with a hammer. Gonna serve in for 4. And AJ's got to be like, that hurts.
Yeah. Oh, man. That guy has hammers.
Wah, wah. AJ's still with a pretty full grip. He's got a ton of options here. He's got some Squadron Hawks that can buy him some time. But getting rid of that Koth is going to be a big issue because that emblem is very threatening. I already know Patrick Sullivan took off one match on the back of that emblem in this tournament.
In this top 8 already.
In this top 8, yeah.
And I know in this tournament he's done it a few times. I mean, it's so hard to lose once you ultimate a Koth, this deck.
Yeah.
Especially in the current metagame. Like, everything is just X1, X2.
Oh, man.
When all of your lands become Visaras, things get dangerous.
Well, sometimes Visaras, at the very least, you know.
Well, they're Cunning Spark Mages, but I mean,
all lands Cunning Spark Mages.
Cunning Spark Mage is basically a 3-mana Visara in this format, though. Like,
yeah, that's true. Just constant Flame Fusillade happening. It's pretty insane. It does not work on your Teetering Piece, which I guess is a little disappointing, but still. Alright, so AJ's like, alright, we're going to have to Stoneforge. And I think we're going to go for Body and Mind here. AJ pauses on the Feast of Famine. He's thinking about it. He knows this is a huge decision. If he's connected with the sword once, which one does he want to connect with? And he's thinking through his options very carefully.
I mean, at this point, Pat still has 2 burn spells in hand, I believe, so it's pretty much over for AJ.
Yeah, I mean,
Pat's going to ultimate this Koth.
I mean, AJ is in a rough situation. The question for him, I think, when he was searching for that sword is just like, I might be able to get one hit this game, theoretically. If I do, which sword do I want to hit with? Oh, double Searing Blaze. Kapow, kapow. And
for you, you're at 1.
Yeah, and Koth is ready to go ultimate next turn.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like, AJ could attack the Koth with his Colonnade, but then he dies to the Koth.
Yep.
So, unless he has...
There's a Lightning Bolt, which I guess takes him off ultimate, so he can drop Koth down to 2 and play a Squadron Hawk to block with.
I mean, that's his only play that allows him to survive.
And he can cast Preordain, dig a little deeper. Pointed out that those are Arabian Nights Mountains that Patrick Sullivan has on the battlefield.
Oh, they are?
Yes, allegedly, according to Jonathan Williams on Twitter. So, there we go. Patrick looking over the board. Yeah, so AJ goes Bolt on the Koth. And figuring out what he's going to do next. Alright, Mystic Hawk gets some blockers. But Patrick Sullivan is just 1 burn spell away from winning this. And he cracks the Arid Mesa to give himself a better chance of finding one. Chooses to not look at the top card wisely.
All you need is 1.
It's true. All you need is burn in Patrick Sullivan's world, and it seems to be okay here. Let's see what he finds. So what's sitting on top of his deck? Oh, it's a Koth of the Hammer.
That is a Koth of the Hammer.
That was a pretty bad draw for P. Sully there. Now, granted, if that Koth dies, it gives him some action, but on this particular turn, it's not what he was looking for. Wait, whoa. That's not how Planeswalkers work. Patrick Sullivan just annihilated himself.
Oh no, Pat Sullivan playing Old Legend rule.
Oh no. Oh no.
Oh no.
Patrick Sullivan just cast Koth of the Hammer.
Pat, it hasn't been that way since 2003. Come on.
On the battlefield. But the thing about
when you play a legend, oh yeah, yours just the second Koth would have just died. Yeah.
But
what is he doing?
But Patrick Sullivan is just 1 burn spell away from taking the match. So even with that horrid misplay by Mr. Sullivan, he can still dig his way out of it. AJ, we can't see his face, but
oh man,
that certainly has got to be a breather of relief for him there. Of course, still now it's a matter of, well, can I survive at 1 life? I'm going to be able to pull back into this game.
People who are watching online are probably like, wow, this is the best burn player in the world? This is all they...
Yep.
Just joking. Pat is definitely a master. Glenn's laughing. I mean, he's good-natured about it. He's,
Oh man, so that sort of feels
I mean, that just I bet it could just draw a lightning bolt here, you know?
Yeah, he's one burn spell away. All right, spike shot Elder. Hey, foul! AJ takes it down despite getting Koth hammered.
Yeah, Pat takes it away.
Koth getting hammered.
I mean, the odds were still way in Pat's favor,
Yes.
even after that horrible misplay. But
that's still pretty comical. The second Koth the hammer.
Sometimes you don't need the Koth or the second Koth.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man. All right, so we're about to go to our 6 months of premium giveaway here on during the semifinals of the top 8. Everyone get your Twitter feeds ready with the hashtag SCG Premium. And we were just talking about this a couple minutes ago. There was a player in the top 8. We watched his match in the quarterfinals. He lost to the rug player who advanced into the semifinals. What was his name?
An added clue, he was John Finkel's teammate at Pro Tour San Diego in 2007.
Oh, there you go. If you can't access the Starts the Games website to figure out the coverage, you could go back there and find out yourself. So tweet that at us with the hashtag SCG Premium, and you'll be entered into a contest to win 6 months of premium. One user already turned out with 3 months today. It's such a great service. There'll be a ton of great reports up on premium this weekend. Some awesome videos, and yeah, it'll be awesome watching. Glenn Jones just comes up to us just laughing after that second hammering.
Yeah, his defense is that's not how it works in the WGCC.
Patrick Sullivan played a little bit too much of other games with his job at Cryptozoic, so not used to how the legend rule works in Magic. Fortunately for him, it didn't end up mattering, and that might be one of the strangest plays ever made in the semifinals match, that the player still went on to win the match, or win the game. So P-Sully takes down game 2, or game 1 rather.
The best one was like, I was sitting next to him and his hand was like swallowing my cough. And I'm like, oh well. And he goes, float 1, and then jumps him out, and I'm just like,
it's, what a situation. What a situation. I haven't seen anything like that for a while. Although, so once I'll tell you guys a story. So once there was a PTQ, and this is back when Affinity was big and extended, and he was playing for top 8. And this Affinity player plays out his hand, his opponent plays Kataki. And his opponent's like, oh, this is awful. Like, Kataki taps all of his lands with some permanents. He, like, passes, and he's like, oh, do you have another Kataki? The guy's like, yeah, just wait till I play this. He plays the second Kataki down, and they legend rule each other. And that's that.
Oh, man, that's brutal.
Yeah. Like, you just have your ace against Affinity, and you're like, I'm going to play a second one. That was really necessary.
I mean, I remember playing, I used to play Ryo Affinity.
Yeah, sure.
And I remember people playing Kataki. You really just can't beat that card.
I played Affinity and made finals with PTQ, and turn 2 Kataki is rough. Later on, like, you can kind of deal with it.
Oh, yeah, like later on in the game.
You can pay for your cranial plating and, like, your Ornithopter and, you know, whatever you have to do, but, like, on turn 2, there's just no getting out of it. You have to, like, have, you know, your Scar or Spell Bomb or whatever you were using.
The Scar was a nice upgrade.
Yeah.
There, because you can pay for it with the red or the black artifact land. Now, AJ AJ's a pretty accomplished player now.
Yeah, I mean,
he's putting up a lot of results recently.
Yeah.
You know, he's a player who, you know, he's been like on the Pro Tour quietly for a while. I like his writing a lot. He's definitely one of the better writers recent times. If you guys want to read the stuff that he publishes, you should check out StarCityGames.com. And,
never heard of it. Why don't you tell me more, Jacob?
You know, you can get a premium membership. Read some AJ Sacher articles.
Yeah, it's he's been a player who's been playing a lot on these Star City Games Open Series events. Like, you know, he's been coming to all of them with his crew, kind of with the Drew Levin guys, the Jerry Thompson guys, and they're like, these events are just great. Like, you know, I'm going to go to all of the ones I can. And I'm pretty sure we'll see AJ in Memphis next week as well.
Yeah, we might even see him in the top 8.
Yeah.
Kind of an unusual thing for AJ to do.
He was playing for top 8 last week with a very similar deck and ended up missing. Or at least in the legacy portion, I know he was playing for top 8. AJ kept talking about how he got one outed by a Sting Scourger last week when he show and telled Emrakul on turn 3, and his opponent drew the Sting Scourger to bounce the Emrakul. And we kept watching that replay over and over and over, and AJ's like, yeah, there's just nothing I could have done there.
Sting Scourger, man.
Even had the
brutal. Did his opponent like matron for it at least? Or
no,
his opponent
he
cold
just
draw
drew it, and the worst part was AJ even had force in his hands, and his opponent just vialed it out. So, so AJ looking over his hands.
The vial was like on the right number for the Sting Scourger, just haphazardly. That's really brutal.
All right, here comes Goblin Guide again for Patrick Sullivan, and that is the card. Starting on a Goblin Guide is just so good in the red decks.
Oh no, AJ doesn't have a bolt.
No bolt for AJ. Squadron Hawk is gonna do some.
This guy's gonna start doing some work.
But yeah, Patrick Sullivan looking to try and get ahead here.
He's gonna guide some people to victory.
And by guide, he means show them a fistful of lightning bolts. Passes back to Patrick Sullivan, and Patrick picks up his card for the turn. Spike Shot Elder, the card that ended the last game, fortunately for Patrick.
Card that closed it out.
So he Teetering Peaks, the Goblin Guide, and then bolts down that to pick up 4 points of damage. Did he not flip for Goblin Guide?
He did.
He did flip for
He got a planes.
It just looked
put it in
really
his hand,
fast.
yeah. So Meisenhower into the top 4.
Right. So the top 4. We just got report of who won the other match. So this matchup: AJ Sacher versus Patrick Sullivan. And on the other side of the bracket is Jonathan Sukanik, who we saw play in the quarterfinals with his rug deck against Mike Eisenhower with straight up blue-white Cobblade, and he's very, very defensive. He's like, blue-white's way better than 3-color. You do not want the red. Where AJ's like, no, you need the red. The tectonic edges are nice, but having those lightning bolts and cunning spark mages are too important. We'll see who ends up ending up trumping over the other in this tournament.
It's interesting to note that if Pat was on the play this game, he would have just crushed his opponent.
I mean, red decks are definitely good at doing that. I mean, being on the play is just such an advantage when your opponent is just behind. You know, turn 1 Goblin Guide, you just can't do anything. There's just no answer to it. You can't like have a bolt in the waiting or anything like that. So here comes down Spike Shot Elder. And AJ looking over his options. What do we see in AJ's hand here? I see 2 Gideons.
Gideons are pretty good against Pat's deck.
Squadron Hawk, of course. And time to go find some more Hawks. A good old loading screen, as we've seen several of in this tournament. every time you search, Stoneforge Mystic, Fetch Land, Squadron Hawk. Lots of loading times. It's like the Chrono Trigger PS2 version of a standard format. All right, so here comes Squadron Hawk.
I really like that AJ chooses to, just flood the board. He understands that if his opponent has a Kath of the Hammer, like things are just really, really bad for him, and it's just so important for him to just be able to flood this board.
Well, and he absolutely has to flood it too, because that Spike Shot Elder, the innocuous 1/1 that he is going to start causing some problems. 3 mana, kill a Squadron Hawk. I mean, it really allows Patrick Sullivan to get in with his creatures here.
Yeah. Now, I mean, if Pat plays an untapped land and attacks, even if AJ attacks with his Goblin Guide, even if AJ triple blocks with Hawks, Pat still gets to use 1 card from his hand and deal with all the Hawks.
Yeah, and I mean, that's like the Hawks are just there to soak up damage in this matchup, and so getting rid of them, great.
Of course,
for Patrick
AJ
Sullivan.
gets to untap and cast Gideon.
Right, Gideon. Now that's a card that's a big problem because You can burn them out if they're in a certain life total range, but you know, if you're not within that range, it can be very difficult to attack past the Gideon. So AJ, considering his blocks, he can either put all 3 Hawks in front of the Goblin Guide, or he can just put 1 in, or just take the damage. I think, what do you think you do here? You think you just trade all 3? Yep, and that's what AJ opts to do. Trade all 3. Probably trade 2, and then the Elder will pick off 1 of them on AJ's turn.
Yeah.
So looks like there's a Teetering Peaks in Patrick's hand, but I wasn't able to make out much else. Okay. Passes. The trick with Teetering Peaks and Spike Shot Elder, of course, is you can play the Peaks, pump the Elder up to 3 power, and then activate its ability to deal 3 damage somewhere, which is a nice little bit of reach. And I think we're almost certainly going to see a Gideon out of AJ here.
Would not surprise me one little bit.
AJ drops down to 11 life. And Patrick can Teetering Peaks up that Spike Shot Elder to deal 3 points, drop AJ to 8. But even then, getting past that Gideon, dealing 8 points of damage, I'm not sure how many burn spells are in Patrick's hand, but it could be a rough going. Yep, and there's the Planeswalker himself. +2, which puts the counters right on him.
Such an absurd card.
8 loyalty is so much loyalty. That is 1 loyal Planeswalker.
It's so hard to play creature decks when cards like Gideon. Like creature decks that aren't supplemented by these card advantage engines like Squadron Hawk and
right.
League of Stampede or Vengevine.
Yesterday we saw Lewis Laston saying he boarded 1 Gideon so he could legend rule his opponent's Gideons. Alright, so he attacks the Gideon and he chooses to, with Teetering Peaks, and he chooses to activate Spike Shot Elder's ability on the Gideon. So instead of dealing damage to AJ, he redirects to Gideon Jura. A good play for Patrick in trying to kill off that Gideon. Of course, the problem is he doesn't know AJ has a second one waiting for him in the wings if he finishes off that first one.
I mean, this turn AJ could even just cash in his Gideon to deal the Spike Shot and then play another Gideon.
Right.
That does not seem like an unreasonable series of plays.
Oh, absolutely not. And AJ clearly thinking he knows the game is tight. He doesn't want to make a slight error. And he's searching his deck. I think that can mean Squadron Hawk. Or I guess he already used 3 Hawks. So,
yeah, he's Stone Forging for Basilisk Collar.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one to get here. And he plays out the collar. Gives it to Gideon. Serves in. Gains 6 life. Brutal.
That is brutal.
I think Patrick might be able to take down that Gideon. This turn, but even then, that 6 life is not going to be easy to rustle through, especially with an active collar on the table. Scalding Tarn for Sullivan.
Now, if Pat wants here, he could play the untapped land, Bolt Koth. He would kill the Gideon and the Stoneforge Mister.
Yeah, I mean, that seems like a reasonable.
And then he has an Unmolested Koth, too.
Yeah. I mean, Ultimate and Koth is pretty good, although those double Teetering Peaks aren't as great, but with Koth out, because they do not gain the emblem ability. But yeah, so he bolts down the Gideon. And then Manic Vandals the Basilisk Collar.
Ooh.
That's a nice little play from Patrick Sullivan there.
I didn't realize he had Manic Vandals.
Yeah, he was talking yesterday about how it hadn't done a lot for him, but he was like, well, right now in the tournament they haven't done anything, but I bet I'll play some match where they turn out well, and that Manic Vandal taking down that Basilisk Collar is huge. It really shuts off AJ's wellspring of life.
Yeah, I mean, AJ taking these 6-point swings and getting lifelink on them, that's not a thing you want to be happening when you're a red deck.
Right. AJ sitting at 17, I believe, thanks for the Gideon swing.
Yeah.
Or
It's like a giant Baneslayer Angel.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another Gideon waiting in the wings in AJ's hand. And Lightning Bolt takes down Spike Shot Elder.
Yeah, Lightning Bolt's just so strong.
And AJ drew a Flash Freeze, which is a nice little...
It's going to make Koth a non-issue.
Yeah, as long as... Well, if AJ taps low for a Gideon here, it cannot Flash Freeze. But I think... Yeah. So Gideon... +2, you must attack Gideon this turn. Yep, and yeah, there's the line. That's what I thought he drew. So now he can Flash Freeze Koth. And AJ's at 16, he's got an active Gideon. Things not looking so hot for Patrick Sullivan in this position.
Yeah, this is not the position you want to be in as a red player.
Right, the game's just gone too long. Now, granted, if Sullivan were on the play, this could be an entirely different ball game. But on the draw,
Oh yeah, if Sullivan was on the play, this just would have been a cakewalk. He would have just, played turn 1 Goblin Guide, turn 2 peeks into an empty board, then Spike Shot Elder, and then he still would have had 2 bolts and a Koth in his hand.
Right.
So he could play a Koth and protect it, and it would have been so many turns later that AJ would have been able to play Gideon. He wouldn't have been able to play it the next turn. He wouldn't have been able to play it the next turn, and by then Patrick would have been able to ultimate Koth.
Right.
If his opponent wasn't already dead.
So another Spike Shot Elder comes out for Patrick Sullivan, and he's trying to find his way back into this game, but it's proving fairly difficult. AJ's life total is pretty high up there. All right, Stagger Shock on Stoneforge, mister. Yeah, Mike Flores just came up again. Did Patrick Sullivan really win Game 1 despite coughing his own cough? Yes, in fact, he did. For those who weren't here, Patrick Sullivan played a second cough when he had a cough on the battlefield because he thought the Legend rule worked a little differently. But AJ was at 1 life, so it didn't end up mattering as much. Day of Judgment clears Patrick's board. And I think that Gideon gets in here? Yep.
Oh, it's got to. You just want to close the game at this point.
Right.
You have Flash Freeze in your hand. There's nothing your opponent could really play that you're afraid of.
And Patrick corrects that Scalding Tarn, trying to find something.
With that Colonnade, AJ just has Pat dead on board.
Right. Yeah, I think Patrick's going to look at his top card, and then I think we'll see a scooping up of the cards pretty quickly. There's Michael J in the background right there. All right.
Stylish hamburger shirt.
Dude, that shirt is kind of sweet. All right.
I wasn't saying anything otherwise.
All right, yeah, exactly that. Picks up his cards. And we're off to Game 3, but Patrick Sullivan will be on the play for the 3rd game.
Let's see if his Goblin Guide in his opening hand again.
Yeah, that's a good one to have, let me tell you. My brother played a red deck in a tournament with Goblin Guide. He hasn't played for a while, and he played, and he made it to the top 8, and then he actually ended up winning the tournament. And I asked him what his secret was, and he said, "This is my secret. You never wish your opponents good luck, so they never hit on Goblin Guide, and you always have Goblin Guide."
Yeah.
And he said that's how you win all your matches. So yeah,
the most insane thing when you're playing red is just the multiple Goblin Guide draws along with teetering peaks.
Yeah, I played against at the Pro Tour. I played against Rich Owen, and he went turn 1 Goblin Guide, turn 2 Goblin Guide, Goblin Guide, and it's just
they're taking you for 6 on turn 2.
And sometimes there are other times where you draw a bunch of lands, but other times,
and you're already at 12.
Yeah,
because you took 2 on turn 1. Right. It's not like that's the first hit you've taken.
And maybe you get some lands.
And then literally you're dead to 2 burn spells at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. What a 2/2 haste for 1 mana. It's so insane that we live in a world where that card exists. And Lightning Bolt, and yet the Ka Blade decks are the ones ruling the roost. We'll see if Patrick Sullivan can put an end to this particular rule of the Ka Blade strategy.
Pat's made it pretty deep here for playing mono red. I'm impressed.
So is AJ switching up his sideboarding here? What do you think he's changing?
If he's on the draw, I mean, I think he probably still wants the collar, but the big question here is whether or not he wants to, if you're on the draw, you might not want as much counter magic. I know I've heard Pat say many times that counter spells are really bad against him. All counter spells are really bad against him. So even though AJ is going to have like some number of flash freeze, maybe even the full count, I think, especially on the draw, AJ's probably going to want to take out some number of like mana leaks and spell pierces that might have been left over in his main deck.
Yeah. I mean, those spell pierces, I think, on the draw, they just aren't going to do enough. I mean, they fit into your curve a little better, but when your opponent's curve is like, being attacking with Goblin Guide, it is a little rough to have that spell pierce sitting in your hand, wishing, man, I would really love this to be a lightning bolt right now.
Yeah. Other cards, I mean, Jace is probably not a very good card to have on the draw against Pat. I'm not sure if Jace came out already. Playing Jace against any deck that has Searing Blaze seems like a somewhat large liability.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting Blightninged in a sense.
Yes.
I mean, not like in the fact that you discard the cards, but just like it feels awfully like I lose my creature and I lose my Jace,
Pretty good.
And I mean, for those who's just joining us, I'm Gavin Verhey here with Jacob Van Lunen, and we're going into what's bound to be a very exciting Game 3 of the semifinals between Patrick Sullivan and AJ Sacher. On the right of your screen is Patrick Sullivan, the red deck aficionado. Wasn't just right for this tournament, decided to play, just was here, was originally going to be in the booth commentating with us for a little while, and he was like, I think I'll play in this tournament, why not? And
the master of disaster,
builds a
the
deck,
denizen of destruction.
Builds a deck out of red cards he's got in a box, and is like, yeah, sure, I'll play this. Ends up in the top 8 now in the semifinals of this event, playing, a mishmash of red cards. On the other hand, we have AJ Sacher playing a deck he's been refining for a long time, almost the opposite deck building process with Jerry Thompson and Drew Levin and a bunch of those guys, and they've been tweaking the Cobblade deck, adding in red and modifying some of the sideboard options to include Linvala, and they both found themselves here in the semifinals. We're going to see who manages to advance to the finals with this match. AJ takes a mulligan.
Huh. And I saw a Linvala, I believe, in AJ's hand.
I mean, it shuts off
Spike Shot
Elder, but I think the bigger thing is it's a 3/4, which is surprisingly relevant because you can't bolt it,
you can't Searing Blaze it,
and you can't Stagger Shock it effectively, and you can block, Goblin Guides and all kinds of things.
You can block Spike Shot Elders that have been teetering peaked.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can block everything.
Right. I mean, worst
You
case.
can't block mountains. Those are 4/4s.
Worst case, you're just gonna trade with 2-for-1, which is great. You trade like your Linvala for their Goblin Guide plus Lightning Bolt. You're perfectly happy with that exchange. So it looks like we've got Lightning Bolt, Spell Pierce, and Inferno Titan playing. So AJ left the Pierces in. He's staring down.
AJ does not have any blue mana.
Yeah, so you're Aaron Mesa Plains, Bolt, Inferno Titan, Spell Pierce, Jace. Looks to be his 6-card hand. And he's staring at it long and hard, trying to figure out, can I keep this? I've got that Lightning Bolt. But all right, he keeps. No turn 1 play from Patrick Sullivan. He said that turn 1 plays are crucial in this matchup, and he doesn't have one here. So a 7-card hand must be pretty saucy. And just no turn 2 play either from Patrick Sullivan.
Huh.
Wow.
That looks like he has a lot of land in his hand.
Yeah, that's a really interesting keep from Patrick Sullivan. Yeah, is that 3 or 4 more lands in Sullivan's hands? Wow. There's a Koth and 1 or 2 Koths and a Stagger Shock. Yeah, 2 Koth, Stagger Shock, 3 lands.
Huh, that's an interesting keep from Pat.
Man. Well, clearly...
this is not a problem for Pat at all, though. Pat gets to untap, he plays his 3rd land. He's going to main phase Stagger Shock the Stoneforge Mystic. Then on AJ's turn, AJ's not going to play another guy to go into the Stagger Shock, and then Pat's going to get to play an Unmolested Koth into a board where AJ has no blue mana.
Right.
So, things could be worse.
I mean, with the board state and the mulligan situation the way it was, it's okay for Patrick, but the hand he kept is certainly could be iffy if AJ gets a good draw. But once again, Patrick knows what's going on pretty well with the red deck, so I'll trust his judgment here. AJ passes, draws another Stagger Shock.
Another important thing to note is that
Shocks down Stoneforge Mystic.
Another important thing to note here is that Pat on the play also knows that like a stagger shock into a Koth is probably going to win him most games.
Well, certainly it's looking good this one. There's no blue mana on AJ's side. And Patrick lays a mountain, and he's going to come Koth the Hammer. +1, mountain, attack for 4. This game, I will predict that Patrick Sullivan will not cast a second Koth with the Koth of the Hammer on the battlefield.
You know, I'm going to fly in the face of all logic and say that he does it again, that he runs it back.
You think so? All right, AJ's left total down to 13. He bolts that Koth. And AJ figuring out his line of play. He has another Stoneforge Mystic. Stoneforge comes on down. And yeah. So he's going to search up a piece of equipment here. The Basilisk Collar is already out, so we'll probably see a sword make an appearance. Yep, Sword of Feast and Famine.
With the combination of sword and Basilisk Collar, like AJ's guys are very good at fighting.
Yeah, I mean, and they're going to recoup some of the life he's losing. You know, if he can swing for 3.
The problem is that Pat has another stagger shock now.
Right. And as long as he doesn't cast the Koth this turn, I think he'll be pretty safe. So you stagger shock the Stoneforge Mystic, Servant for 4. That's a Burst Lightning he just drew, which is another 4 points of damage.
That's another 4 points.
So let's see, pays 2. Untaps. Taps the other mana. Stagger shocks. And attacks for 4. AJ drops down to 9 life. And
it's just such a rough spot for AJ.
Yeah, AJ's really falling behind here. Evolving Wilds, but not a blue source. At least not an untapped one. And AJ thinking through how he's going to get back in this one.
With that burst in hand, I think
that burst in
this
hand
is basically done.
Yeah, I mean, plus, I mean, if AJ had a blue source, maybe he could spell pierce that burst, but without access to blue, it's going to be really difficult for Mr. Sacher here.
Yeah, I mean, even if he cracks the fetch land, he lethals himself.
Yep. He just looking over his hand, trying to figure out, how do I win this game? And he's thinking about his Arid Mesa. Yep, he cracks his Arid Mesa. Goes to search through his deck.
Is it 8 now?
Yeah, it drops to 8. 4 plus 4. I can do that
yep,
addition.
See? You're already becoming a master red player.
Alright, so he plays a sword, passes, and Patrick has it. Stagger shock you down to 6.
Oh, you didn't even need it.
Oh, he even has the Teetering Peaks. Yeah. Burst Lightning, untap, attack you, lethal, and there's the hand.
And that's it.
Patrick Sullivan, red deck, 20-minute red, we'll call it. Into the
20-minute red. I like that.
Into the finals. Wow. How about this story? Patrick Sullivan, wasn't thinking about playing in the tournament. He's like, I'll play it.
The man, the myth, the legend, Patrick Sullivan.
It's funny because
into the finals.
In San Jose, we saw the same kind of thing.